All right, everybody. Welcome to Dave Cooper Live expert interview. And guess what? We made it to Texas, Austin, Texas, and it is hot here, folks. I don't know how Matt does it, but man, we got a special guest coming on today. This is going to be a lot of fun. This is kicking off a complete week of innovation, collaboration, people coming together to make really great things happen in the community of the construction world, of the built environment. So really looking forward to this. So if you're just joining us, please hit that like and share button right now, because we are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And also make sure you go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. That way, if you miss any of these, you can go back and watch them, or if they're just so good you want to watch them again, they're there for you to take a look at. So with that said, I also want to thank you to our sponsor, Garcia Strongberg Architects out of West Palm Beach, Florida. They have been designing and building commercial and residential projects all over the world. In fact, you probably have stayed in one of their resorts at some time or another. So Garcia Strongberg Architects, thank you so much for being the sponsor today. Love having you guys on board with us, and love the fact that you're interested in the offsite construction community. All right, so with that said, we're going to bring somebody on that a lot of us know. I followed Matt Rissinger for a long time. I got to ask him, I think he's from Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh as well. I'm a Pittsburgh guy, so we'll get into all that. So why don't we bring Matt into the show right now?
Hey,
hey, man.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. I think one of the highlights of my trip to the International Builder Show, and we got to sit down and have lunch together and just chat with a lot of the other influencers in the space, if that's what we want to call them. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show today, because we got a bigger surprise coming up Wednesday.
I know, we're looking forward to it. I'm going to take you to my house on Wednesday under construction, Dave.
I love it. I got to say, the build show, right? We're going to do it. We're going to do it. Matt Rissinger. So
we can do that until the end. That's how we sign off.
The end of it. The end of it. I love it. Well, that's all right. I think, there's so much happening, Matt. And I think with what you're doing at your house personally, and just what you do in general for the construction community, the information that you put out there, the editorial, the education that you are giving the world on all the products. I mean, you really, the hat's off to you, because you are one of the original ones to jump into doing it in this format.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate that. I've been doing this a while. I moved to Texas 15 years ago and had been reading all the publications my whole life. Not my whole life. I've been doing this 25 years. So I was reading Fine Home Building and Journal Like Construction, right, watching This Old House since I was a junior high age kid. And when I moved to Texas, I felt a little abandoned, to be honest, because a lot of those publications have a real Northeast bias.
Right.
And so I started a blog in 2007 and a YouTube channel in 2008, with part of the reason being I wanted to help tell people how to build well in the hot, humid South.
Right.
And then here I am, 12 years or so later, still doing it on YouTube. And there's, as you know, in this construction world, there's always something to learn. Every single day I feel like, gosh, how did I not know that before? How have I never seen that technique, that product, that way of doing things? That's better than what I'm doing. I need to start doing that. It's one of the things I love about this industry.
Well, it is. And you're so authentic about it, because even on your own house, I've seen the videos, my 5 biggest mistakes on my house, or right. Just in general, because it's ever evolving, the industry, and it is changing so quick moving forward. But I do have to ask, you're from Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Pittsburgh, South Hills. My parents still live, as my dad calls it, in Washington, PA.
Oh yeah. I know it well. I'm right up 79, not too far from you where I grew up. So
okay. I went to there.
Where'd you go?
I went to Grove City.
Did you go to Grove City?
An hour north of Pittsburgh, up 79 north on the way to
right. Absolutely. My sister went to Slippery Rock, not too far away.
Right next door, for sure. We used to go there to Quaker Steak and Lube all the time to get some wings before time.
I love it. The Pittsburgh connection's strong. There's so many of us in this industry, and I love it. So let me ask you something that's, I think, super important, because you collaborate with other people, on your show. You collaborate with industry experts. How important is it for you to have that collaboration throughout the industry, and where do you see it heading? You see it getting better?
I do, Dave. I think that collaboration is vital in our industry because, if for no other reason, that you can't be an expert in everything, right? You need an engineer who's an expert in engineering. You need an architect who's an expert in design. You need a builder who's an expert in coordinating. You need every builder's got to have a foundation guy or a concrete guy, an electrician, a plumber, a framer. All these things to know to build a really good house. I'm pretty good at coordinating them and getting the right people in the room. And I know a little bit enough of all those trades to be dangerous, but I certainly could never plumb a house, even though I nerd out on plumbing fittings and what's the best, should I use Uponor or Vega or, all these different options. So we need to collaborate in our industry, and we need to learn how to play well with others. And ultimately, I think as an industry, I've seen a lot of change in that department, even in the 15 years I've been building as my own builder. When I moved to this town 15 years ago, architects and builders didn't get along well. And I think there's still some places like that in this country where, builders make fun of architects and architects think builders are the dirty, ones on the job site that are just ruining their plans.
Yeah.
What's changed here in Austin is that I've seen a giant shift in the collaboration between the architecture and the building community. And my company doesn't do any design. I strictly rely on architects to do the design, what they're good at. And then what my company brings to the table is a really good building science and craftsmanship focus. Right. And so we collaborate with all kinds of different great architects around town. And the same is true when it comes to the engineering, the MEPs, the trades. We need to learn to be really good collaborators to produce a great product in America.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think it's the only way our industry is going to move forward. It's one of the only industries that's way, way behind the times when it comes to using technology and building science. It's taking a long time to get to where it's going. So I think the collaboration, especially with the architects, is going to be huge moving forward. How did you get into, the way you're designing passive house, building science, right? Because you didn't always start off there. I think you started off just talking about construction, and as you became more educated and started educating people, I think the knowledge base grew, and now you're really, really passionate about it.
Yeah, Dave, I started my career 25 years ago with a national production builder. And, when you're a 22-year-old building for them, they want to kind of teach you their ways so that you'll build the same house and stamp them out. I was doing 20 houses at a time, and we were doing houses in like 80 days, 80 calendar days, start to finish. So these were really basic, not very well built houses. And I didn't know any better as a 22-year-old. So I started my career there. I was there with them for 7 years. But the galvanizing moment for me was the mold crisis in 2001. 2002, right in that time period. I just moved to another climate zone. I moved from DC, where I was building, to Portland, Oregon, and mold was on the national news. You heard Brian Williams talking about mold. Houses were getting massive lawsuits that builders had just built. And the builder that I was working for at that time, this was before I started my company, just right before the day before I started with them, was in a lawsuit with several clients, had to buy back some houses, had to remediate some houses. And so here I was at the time, I was around 30, let's say. I felt like I was an experienced builder after having built for 7 or 8 years. But all of a sudden I'm dealing with lawyers and industrial hygienists and guys in big white Tyvek suits that are remediating houses. And I was like, gosh, what's the deal? I mean, this builder seems like they're building the way I would have expected the house to be fine, but all of a sudden we're having massive problems. And ultimately it was really water related issues. And that builder was lax on water management. And all of a sudden a little bit of mold here and there wasn't just, oh, we'll take care of that, no big deal. It was, we're going to sue you because I'm worried my kids are going to die. And it just went to DEFCON 10. And as a result, I spent about 3 years with that builder digging into building science. What causes mold? What causes water intrusions? What are the ways we can prevent that? When you think about the order of importance for houses, water is your number one enemy. Water causes 80% of construction defect litigation. We need to be experts in water. And I was thrown right into the deep end with the sharks as a 30-year-old. And it galvanized in my mind, like, gosh, if we don't pay attention to how we build houses, we just slap them together, or not that we were slapping them together. We just weren't thinking about it. We were doing it how we always were doing it. And all of a sudden we had massive problems. It made me realize, I really need to think critically about how houses go together, what products I use, what methods and materials I'm going to use, how I'm going to manage the project to make sure that we don't have future issues. And as you mentioned earlier, that's always been my mantra: is admit your mistakes, correct them, and move forward. And now I just admit them to a bigger audience than what I did 5 or 10 years ago. And I think connect with them, but I try to be honest with that.
But that's the only way we're going to get better. It's the only way we're going to get better. And I think everybody's, like I said, trying to find their way through. And you hit on a big point there. I think, education wise for builders, you know how it is when you get out there and you're starting to build, whether you work for somebody, you own your own company. I mean, you're in your trenches all day. You're just trying to manage a business, trying to manage trades. They don't have the time in their minds to get an education, right? Or this is the way we used to do it. That houses have stood for 100 years. It's perfectly fine, right?
Totally.
And they don't think about that. And I think that's another issue that we have is, how do we educate, the youth? How do we educate builders? How do we educate the tried and true that are already in our system? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
YouTube has been one way that I've educated myself on all kinds of things. You need to figure out how to take your shower valve apart to clean it. You go to YouTube and there's a video. I've kind of used that, or I stumbled upon this medium of YouTube, and it's a great way to educate. One of the beauties of YouTube compared to LinkedIn or Instagram or one of these other, or Facebook, is when I make a video 5 years ago about how to flush a tankless water heater, that video lives on, and Google serves it up when people Google, hey, what do I need to do to maintain my tankless? That's how I get a ton of people that find me, is because they're searching for something, and all of a sudden they realize, hey, I'm making videos twice a week about how to build a better house in all its forms, from plumbing to mechanicals, insulation, water management, waterproof products, all those things. And there's really an endless supply of topics. And now I've got a network of several other builders and another architect also doing the same thing. I started a website called buildshownetwork.com. And now we have 6 new videos every week on that channel dedicated to building science and fine craftsmanship.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. I'm close to Steve Basic, over by where we're at. And we were going to actually get together here hopefully soon, just because we're like an hour away, what have you. So, but you have. Well, why don't we do this? Listen, everybody, we are live on 3 locations: LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. If you're not subscribed to Matt Rissinger's YouTube channel, well, now is your chance. Do not disappoint him. Log in there, subscribe to the channel. There is a lot of great content going out there. And while you're there, subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. So listen, now's your chance to ask Matt a question. Matt, you're busy. I mean, you have hundreds of thousands, millions, whatever it is at this point, of followers. And I think that this is a good opportunity for somebody that wouldn't normally have the opportunity to ask you questions, to ask questions. So why don't we go to the comments, say hello to a few people, see who's hanging out there waiting to come on the screen.
That's so cool. You can aggregate comments too. That's awesome.
It is really cool. So we have George Ryman in LinkedIn from Phoenix, Arizona. What's happening,
George? How are you, man?
I told you this guy wouldn't go away. Look, told you. That's Mark Bare Naked Willie right there. Fun way to start the week. Looking forward to Nikki Kruger to BS Friday. Yeah, this Friday we have Nikki Kruger on.
She's awesome.
Yeah, Mark is always plugging the show, and he's bringing on great people that really know their building science. I'll just say even there with that, Matt, because you're really into the building science. It's funny when we have Mark on and these guests on our Friday show. I'm the fish out of water, right? But it works because we're set it up because you can get pretty technical on this stuff, and if you don't bring it down to the average person's knowledge, right? It's hard for people to understand. So it's been a lot of fun teaching everybody, and I'm just learning a ton. All right, Jarrett Gross, looking forward to the show. What's happening, Jarrett? Jarrett's big in printing, man. That's what he loves. I don't know if you know Jarrett, but he's done quite a few videos now on YouTube, but he's really trying to learn the 3D printing world, which is pretty cool.
Cool.
We have Andrew Seeley. Welcome back to Texas, Dave. Kicking it off right with Matt. Love it, love it, love it. Hey, we got Matt Rissinger.
Hey,
wow.
where's
that guy at?
I got to change my logo. That looks like that's from 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, that one is?
Yeah, it looks really old.
you look good in that picture, man. Keep it.
That was at least 5 years ago.
Yeah. Hey, listen, it works. Just go with it. You look the same, quite honestly. All right.
Steve Basic.
Steve, what's happening, man? I was just talking about you. I love this. All right, you got questions out your time. I think we're going to get into it in a second here. So Etienne Gugler, you know Etienne from Siga, North America, right?
Etienne, that picture is from 1989. You got to update it, brother. You've had like 3 more kids since you took that picture.
Etienne, don't take that. He's like the nicest guy in the world. Don't take that.
Awesome. I was texting with him a few hours ago. He's awesome.
We got Joel Hutchins from Splash Modular. What is happening, Joel? All right, here we go. Jared actually has a question for you. If you get the chance, could you ask Matt what he thinks about the Icon project in Austin, where they 3D print tiny homes in the mobile loaves and fishing community, I guess it is. And just so you know, Matt, we are going there tomorrow, so don't give too much. Or we're going there on Wednesday, so don't give too much away.
Great question, Jared. When I saw them 3D concrete printing a house there, we're doing a house in there as well. If you don't know what this is, it's a Catholic charity that started a few years ago where for decades they were feeding the homeless under the bridges. Just an amazing ministry, loving homeless people. And they said, look, we got to do something besides just feed people. We need to start a community to get people an actual house and an address and a shower and a place that they could get a job and have a place to have a mailbox. So they started this community called Community First by Margaret Churches. And we did 2 houses in phase 1. We're doing 1 house in phase 2. They've got like 100 some homes now. For people that were formerly homeless. They're tiny houses. They have community bathrooms and kitchens. Now you can get a job and have an address and have a place to live. You have to pay rent. It's not free. They not only want, you have to keep a job and have an income. But of course, these houses are quite small and quite affordable. And they're doing an amazing thing over there. But Icon Group is a company that started with this giant 3D printer that prints literally, it looks like a pasta maker, but it's concrete.
Yeah.
And so they printed these houses. Dave's going to show them to you. And they're amazing. They're really, really amazing. I think that the possibilities are endless with this. I'm curious to know whether they could scale up and do bigger projects. I've only seen smaller projects from them. I think that there's some interesting integration with roofs and how do we put a roof on a 3D printed house. But I mean, what an amazing potential future change to our industry where, you pour a foundation and then you bring in a 3D printer to print all the walls, interior and exterior. And then you bring in the crews to outfit it. And a month or 2 later, you've got a completed project that has concrete, super durable walls. Pretty cool.
Yeah. I think it is really cool, and it could be, helping us with the affordable housing crisis in the future. I mean, just the fact that you can run a machine and it does those walls, it's amazing to watch. In fact, it's almost soothing if you actually watch one of these machines work and how it lays out everything. So, but let me look here. I think we are going to be live there, everyone, on Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 12 Eastern time. We'll be at Icon. So just put that on your calendar if you want to see more. I know Jared will be joining us. So thanks, Jared, for the question. Let's keep rocking and rolling here. We got Brent Musson joining us. You know Dr. Brent Musson?
I don't know, Brent. Nice to meet you.
Man. Yeah. You got to know Dr. Musson. He's out in LA. He's doing amazing things with offsite construction, and he's bringing communities together. He's just doing this awesome thing. And we'll get into that. I'll tell you all about it when I see you. All right, we're getting some Pound 412 stuff in the house. All roads lead back to Pittsburgh. Yes, we got Dennis Steigerwald from the Housing Innovation Alliance. 412 Permane Brothers.
Permane Brothers. Gosh, I haven't eaten there, Dave. I'm sorry to say, in at least 30 years.
It hasn't changed, especially down the Strip District. It hasn't changed. It's still as good as ever, and it'll still leave you feeling as bad as ever a couple hours later.
Sounds great.
So,
I need to go back. What's the fish market? Woolies that my dad always.
Woolies is still down there. Yeah.
I need to get back there too.
Yeah, Woolies is still down there. All right, we're going to run through a couple more, and then I really want to start hopping into some of the future of construction, where we see it head. We got Chris Roush. Hello from Waterloo, Ontario.
What's up, Chris?
Awesome. Hey, we got Tom Coronado, Black Hills of Wyoming, checking in. What is happening, Tom?
Very cool, Tom.
Oh man, Tom. He's like the best banker in the world from Citizens Bank, man. That guy right there. Get this, Matt. You want to know something? I always get it wrong. It takes him an hour to get to Home Depot, and it takes him an hour and 15 to get to a Lowe's. But they're in separate directions. So if Home Depot doesn't have something, it's an all-day affair for him. Can you imagine you just need a little, Y fitting or something?
What I'd like to know is, does he head to Home Depot first? Does he head to Lowe's first? Now that would
That's it. Tom, listen, you've been asked a question by Matt Riskinger. You need to put it in the comments. All right, we got Henry Mickelborg. Hey, what's happening, Henry? Bonjour from Southern France. Welcome, Henry. Love it. Love it. Tim Seams. Hello. So this guy really does have a treehouse that he works out of. And he also works out of I think it's an Airstream. So Tim Seams is one of the head marketing guys at Nishiha.
Oh, you know Nishiha? Yeah, I've met Tim before. Your picture looks different, Tim, but we've met before. I saw you in California last. The Arizona last. We were at the AIA convention, I believe. Yeah, AIA Cran. Funny that you mentioned that Tori Belleci episode with Mythbusters. It was not a very well watched episode, but probably one of the most fun 2 or 3 episodes I've done. Hanging out with a Mythbusters guy, just walking down memory lane of all those shows I've watched. It reminds me, I acted like such a fanboy in front of them, and it's weird for me now that I've been on YouTube long enough. Sometimes I meet people who have been watching my show too for years, and when they act nervous around me, I'm always like, "Come on, dude, I'm just Matt." And then then it reminds me, oh, I acted like that in front of Tori too, like super nervous to talk to him. I've seen him on TV for years. I feel like I know everything about him. There's a certain connection, as you know, Dave, that video gets you with people that, I'm sure a lot of people watching your show have never met you, but they feel like they know you. They know your personality. They've even seen, 100 hours of you live before, but yet you've never met them. And so there's a certain connection with video that's different than a lot of other mediums.
Yeah, there really is. And, it's so many people that watch that you don't even know watch. There's a lot of people that just watch in the wins, and then you meet them, and they're like, I watch everything. And, and you're sitting there going, why don't you say hi? But you're right. I think there is that. But I think it's such an honor, right? Like you really to get to know all these people, because otherwise I'm not driving to France or flying to France or taking a boat to France. I'm definitely not driving to France, but when you really look at what it does for everything as a whole and the community of people it's bringing together, at least on my network, it's absolutely amazing, because some of the best minds in the world are joining us every week. And I think it's amazing that they all get together. All right. I got a question for you from YouTube. Alu50, what are your feelings about wood fiber installations? That's
funny you mentioned. I was just on the phone with where's my
You're right.
With this company called Go Lab that has a brand of wood fiber insulation called Timber HP, which is a brand new made in the USA wood fiber company. They are still kind of putting everything together on their manufacturing. They won't actually be making anything until end of 2021, probably first quarter of 2022. Very interesting product. I really want to try it and test it, because when I first saw it in Europe, I was very much like, what? Wood fiber? Seems like a bad idea. We've all seen OSB blow up when it gets wet. But yet, our houses are made of wood, our sheathing's made of wood. Why wouldn't our insulation be made of wood? That's their tagline, and I thought that was pretty interesting. They're adding borates, they're adding paraffin wax. Water kind of runs off like a duck's back. The borates keep the bugs out. So pretty interesting product. And the fact that it's made from carbon sequestering wood, just like our buildings are. Pretty cool. So I think that this brand new American company probably has a bright future.
That's great. Thanks.
Great.
Anthony joined a little late, I think, on a question you had before. Anthony, good day. Powerful experience when it comes to water protection and litigation.
I'm assuming he's talking about wood fiber insulation there.
Yeah. Well, possibly.
Oh,
Anthony,
no, he's talking about.
I think it was earlier when we were talking about water and litigation and
my 2001, 2002 experiences. Ooh, that's for sure, Anthony.
For sure.
Life. This was pre-kids, so I could work 12-hour days without any consequences.
Love it. Brett Musson, used your show as an encyclopedia for years. Prefer your tips over manufacturer instructions.
Appreciate that, brother. Thank you. Very kind of you.
All right. He has a follow-up question. Do you start from manufacturer instructions or start from scratch?
No, I always want to read the manufacturer's instructions. And in fact, what I typically do, although I'm not project managing much anymore, is before the crew starts, a couple days before they start, I really want to download and read everything. Like, for instance, I'm doing a hardy install at my house pretty soon. I'm a month or two away, but I want the crew to get the instructions from me, but I don't just say, hey, here's the James Hardy install. Normally what I'm going to do is I'm going to read, digest, know exactly what the manufacturer says. And then if I have some tweaks to it, and usually it's not changing it because their instructions are bad, it's usually changing it because I think there's a belt and suspenders approach that might be a little better. For instance, James Hardy doesn't say in their instructions you must use a rain screen, but on my jobs, we must use a rain screen. So then once you rain screen it, we need to make sure that the instructions from the manufacturer still work properly. Does the nailing schedule change? Does the caulking schedule change? Does the fastening schedule change? I want to really read that and digest it. And then normally what I'm doing on a job site is I'm doing a mock-up with my head guy and with the supervisor of the crew or lead framer, whoever it happens to be. And I'm going to say, okay, here's how I want to do it. Let's do this mock-up on this 4x8 wall, let's say. Let's install the window. Let's do the WRB. Let's even install some of the exterior insulation and the siding. And then let's use this model as the mock-up for how we're actually going to build the house. And that way, everybody knows what to do. They can go back to the mock-up and go, did we do this? Oh, no, we're not doing that. Okay, let's go back to the house and do it right. Plus, if the whole crew's there when we do it, it really ensures that everything's done right. And lastly, I would say one of my keys to success over the years is using the same subs over and over. I really don't vary my subcontractor crews very much. Occasionally, but not very much. So for instance, really the same 2 framing crews under the same company have done all my builds over the last probably 12 or so years now. So now when I train this crew, they know exactly what I'm expecting. And, we vary methods and materials on every house. But for the most part, they know that I'm always looking to seal the bottom of the sheathing to the concrete, whether that's a fluid applied or a tape. They know that I'm going to be looking very critically at the WRB. They know that no matter what window install, we're always going to have a pan under that window and that door. I've trained them in what to look for, so much so that now, even if there's somebody on the job who is new or doesn't speak English, for instance, they know that if something's not right, they hit the timeout button. The Japanese call that poke-yoke, which means that when Toyota's making a car, if there's a problem on the line, someone pulls a cord, the line stops, and then they figure out what's wrong before they just send that defect on and on and on and on. And the same needs to happen in our houses. We need even the lowest paid labor on the job to go, hey, time out. We're missing the flashing on that window head. Don't install the siding. And that happens regularly on my jobs, whether I'm there or not. And that's huge for me because you can see today I'm in my office. This is my picture wall in my office. I'm sitting at my desk. I'm not out on my 5 jobs or construction. So I'm able to do that and sleep well at night because I'm using the same people, the same crews. Everyone knows what to expect.
Yeah, it's so important, especially if you're going to step and repeat and keep working together and building that trust. I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. You know, a lot of builders out there will shop lowest bidder on everything and keep jumping and jumping, and then have problem after problem after problem.
Yes.
And the real value is, and I'm going to assume on this that it's the right answer as well for you, is when you have the same crews and you get more efficient, and you have less headaches, less warranty calls. There's a whole back end to the build outside of just, you know, low price on who's going to be the best framer or who's going to be the best HVAC guy, right? It really comes down to that team approach. And if people take the team approach, everybody wins. And when everybody wins, that means the homeowner is the ultimate winner in the end.
100%, Dave. And the only comment I'd add to that would be, just because I have the same teams mostly all the time doesn't mean they don't occasionally vary, which means that it's my job, or it's your job as the builder, to make sure that the people on your job, the men and women that are actually doing the hammering, the sawing, the tile installing, are all trained and know what you expect. And don't show up to the job with a new crew at noon and be angry that they did something poorly, or that you have to do rework, or they forgot X, Y, and Z material, or they just didn't care to pick up their lunches. That's your job to train them on what to expect. And so whether it's a new crew or whether it's an old crew, review what you expect of them and make sure they know the expectations. And most people will meet those expectations if they're given the expectation. But don't just have the electrician, the plumber, the framer show up and tell them, all right, guys, get to work. No, they need to know what to expect.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, listen, I'm all about checklists and standards, and you know, everybody being on the same page. And I think we're talking the same shop on that one. So we're going to take two more comments here, and then we're going to jump back to just getting a little bit more into the show in regards to, you know, what we're going to be looking forward to. You know, because we are coming to your house in a couple of days, which is going to be great.
Looking forward to it.
I know it's going to be a good time. So let me. So Bert Baker had a quick question since we were on insulation. What's the best buck for your money on insulating a new build, i.e., foam?
Good question, Bert. I've got a 4-hour answer or a 4-minute answer. I'm assuming I probably should give the 4-minute answer, right?
Yeah, 4 minutes going to be better.
Spray foam is a viable product. I've used it a bunch, but it's a little bit of a crutch, and my experience with spray foam has been that I was going to get these crazy low blower door scores and really airtight enclosures. And more often than not, I'm disappointed when using spray foam for airtightness. You really need to pay attention to your airtightness in other ways, whether that's from your fully taped and fluid applied zip system sheathing to your Prosigo fluid applied exterior. Whatever it is, I like to take my exterior as my air barrier. And then on the inside, if you're in a cold climate, you also want a secondary air barrier inside. You know, things like Sega's My Vest. No, that's not right. Sega's, My Vest.
That's right. Yep.
Those are amazing products for airtightness and vapor control. And those are, in my book, when it comes to waterproofing and air management, more important than insulation. So if you're not doing a good job on your water management and your air barrier, use the cheap insulation. Don't opt for something that's going to cost you more.
Right.
Spend those extra dollars on upgrading your envelope to be more waterproof and to be more airtight. So spray foam is still a viable option, but focus on the water and the air management first, and then pick your insulation. And so, for instance, on my builds, because I'm paying attention to my sheathing and my airtightness and my waterproofing outside, when it comes to insulation, I can kind of use whatever I want. Hopefully that answered your question, even though I kind of skirted the question a little bit.
Yeah. And listen, if anybody wants to see the Sega products, I went up and did a whole training thing with them. So awesome. Had a great time. I went through the training, and it changed my mind on everything I used to do.
Man, they have great training days. You know, I actually attended their training in Switzerland, and they've got a solution for everything. And the cool thing about a tape product in particular, like what their solutions are, tape and membrane based, is that really anybody can learn it. and it'll stick to just about everything. And so you're not relying on spray foam polymers to air seal. And in fact, you're going to get a much better air seal without it, typically. And then you can make the decision whether you want to use spray foam or rock wool or something else to insulate, but you're not using it for air barrier reasons.
Yeah, I agree. So that was a great question. I'm glad we got that one. So, all right, one more. This is a comment, not a question, from Henry over in France. He's commenting about, shit, I built my house with YouTube. He's never short for words, Henry. Love it. That's funny. I figured we'd go there. All right. So I know there's some other questions. Tim Seams had a follow-up questions and some others. We're going to come back at near the end of the show here. Matt, we've already been doing this for 40 minutes. Can you believe it?
Wow. Time flies, man. It's easy to talk to you about this stuff, Dave.
It is. But you know what? We got to save some of this stuff for our on location on Wednesday. We're gonna be walking through the house. We are going to be live. So we should have the ability to take comments and questions just like we're doing now as we're walking through. So that ought to be fun to do with you. So with that said, let's talk about our collaboration we have going on right now. So I'm out here with the Housing Innovation Alliance. You know, we're kind of traveling around and bringing the innovation and the collaboration of what's happening in our industry to people. And I think one of the things that's really powerful is just this conversation alone. You and I having a conversation. You know, I've mainly been in the offsite industry for a long time, doing what I do and with my audience. And the Housing Innovation Alliance has been around for a long time, really showcasing innovation and really trying to move things in a direction that you're going in and have been going in, and that I'm going in, saying we got to do a better job. There's a better way to do this, and the only way we can do it is if we educate together. What is your thoughts on these partnerships and collaborations moving forward?
Man, they're critical, Dave. You know, nobody can know it all. Nobody can be an expert in everything. So learn your part and bring other people in to help. You know, I've been doing this 25 years and I still always get with my plumber, my framer, my architect, my engineer, my MEP designer to go, all right, how do we do this? What's the best solution for this particular house? And don't forget, every house is a different orientation, is a different part of town, is a different climate. There's so many differences between our projects. And also we have different occupants, right? My family of 6 at my house plus a dog is going to have a totally different requirement for a house than a retired couple of 2 living in maybe the same house, maybe the same square footage. So we need to really think critically about our builds, bring the team together to collaborate. And in my book, I'll leave you with this, Dave, because I know we're short on time. You asked me before we started the show, what would be the one thing, what's my kind of one thing that I could leave people with? The one thing for me is do every project a little bit better than the last one. And always look at code as just a suggestion and go beyond that. So for me, over the years, I've always looked at code for airtightness, for insulation, for whatever, and said, you know, I can do better than that. And how can I do better than the last house? Even if it's something small, like one of the things that I've been on a journey over the last, 15 years is how do I build a more airtight enclosure? And by the way, when I build a more airtight enclosure, I've built a house that's more bug-free as well for my clients. Because you're new to Texas, Dave, but I'll tell you, there's a lot of nasty bugs in Texas. And we also have terrible allergies. My wife is suffering horribly right now from ragweed season. And I live in a house that's a 3 ACH 50, which would meet code in this town. But even with an air purifier going in our bedroom and a relatively tight enclosure at 3 ACH 50, my wife's allergies are through the roof during ragweed season, and she suffers terribly. So my new house, I'm building to passive house standards, and I'm doing everything I can to get it as tight as I can from an air tightness perspective. And my last encouragement for whoever was watching this is this one thing: do this better on every build, on every project you build, whether it's your air tightness, whether it's your HVAC system, whether it's your water tightness. Pick one thing and do it better. And do this regardless of the budget, right? Even if you're stamping out houses Maybe you work for a production builder. Maybe you have fixed budgets and you can't go to the nth degree like I might be able to on my personal build or on other jobs. That doesn't mean that you can't just go, hey, I want to make this house a little more airtight. I'm going to deal with this leaky connection between the foundation and the bottom of the framing. Maybe I'm going to use some Sega tape there. Maybe I'm going to use a fluid applied in that application. Do that one thing a little better and move some money around, shuffle some budget out of contingency. Heck, pay for it out of your own pocket if you have to, but figure out how to do something a little bit better in every single build. And if you do that, you're going to accumulate to the best builder in your town. And people will you will be known for having a reputation for doing things really well. And that's driven my business hugely. And I know a lot of builders that are in the same situation. They get jobs because they're well regarded as the best guy in town, the best girl in town.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And you know what? Even if you're watching this and you're not a builder, you're a homeowner, it applies to you as well.
Mm-hmm.
You can get some Sega tape or some caulking or whatever it is, fix the leaky areas of the house, and it'll save you a ton.
For sure.
Save you a ton. I love it. I love it. So what do you see as the new norm? Here we've been going through the COVID. You were going through the COVID. We're still doing it. Are you seeing a change in people's mentality on how we build? Are people paying more attention to healthy homes, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think actually when it comes to building higher performance houses, I think the whole pandemic's actually been beneficial to us as builders who are pushing a high performance agenda. I'm getting less pushback on, air tightness. I'm getting less pushback on better filtration and better HVAC systems. People realize, gosh, if I'm going to have to stay in this house for a quarantine period, not just me, but my kids, my pets, everybody, I should probably pay attention to building a healthier house, and I should spend a little bit more money on this house rather than just thinking, oh, I might get transferred to Chicago in 2 years. I don't want to overbuild for the house or whatever. So all of a sudden we're seeing a renewed interest in building better, building healthier, putting good filtration in, and building a house that's a healthy house for their family or even just for themselves. So I think if anything, the pandemic's probably helped us be a little bit more of a long-term thinker when it comes to our buildings.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. All right. Well, we don't want to leave our audience hanging, but we want to leave them with a little bit of hanging because there has to be a reason to tune in for Wednesday, right? So let's hop back in. I want to get to Tim Seam's question. You're going to have to kind of do one of these because it's a paragraph and it might cut the bottom half of your face off here for a second. Right. There it is. You got to hang on to the top, right? All right. YouTube it. I personally and professionally learned a lot from Dave Cooper and Matt Rissinger's channel. Question: where would you direct small builders to get started with at least one thing to improve building science performance on their very next home?
Oh man, Tim, you lined me up perfectly for this question.
I know the show too.
Either my YouTube channel, which I strategically, I do a lot of conference calls if I can get I do a lot of conference calls, so I put my play button where people could see it. I know that's a little cheesy, but what can I say?
You earned it. I don't think so.
So either my YouTube channel or buildshownetwork.com. Every day I hear from younger builders or people that are new in their new building company saying, hey, I really appreciate your videos. Because what I'm trying to do is train that generation of builders that's maybe 10 years less experienced than I am. And guys like Steve Basic and Wade Paquin and all the other contributors at buildshownetwork.com, they're shooting videos at their job sites across the country, from Rhode Island to Fort Worth to Massachusetts. And Jake Bruton too from there's Jake right there behind this ear. No, yeah. Here. There's Jake in Missouri. They're shooting videos and giving away their quote unquote secrets. It's no different than 15 years ago when I moved to Texas. I joined the Home Builders Association and I became friends with 2 or 3 builders that were in their 50s at the time when I was in my 30s. And I felt like that we didn't have an official mentorship relationship, but I took them to lunch often. I emailed them often. I was friends with them. They were 20 years more experienced than I was. And I would often email them or say, hey, can I buy you lunch? I have this question about stucco. I'm having this problem, or I can't find a sub in this area, Or what do I do about this? A client wanted me to do a guaranteed maximum price, and I'm not sure what to say about that. And those older builders dropped their wisdom and their knowledge with me on a regular basis. They never asked to charge me. The worst I ever did was paid $20 for lunch, and I got so much knowledge from that generation that was at the time 20 years older than me.
Right.
Now even some of those builders have retired. And this is my way to give back. And so I feel like there's no secrets. A rising tide floats all boats. I want to get to the point where people go to a party, and instead of hearing the horror story about their build, they hear nothing but, oh my gosh, your builder is great. My builder was even better. I blew a blower door score of 0.5 ACH 50. What was yours? Yours was 0.6. Oh, that's awesome too. Great job. What's the MERV rating on your furnace filter? You have a MERV 15. I have a MERV 16. That's great. We're really healthy in our houses. How cool would that be if we had nothing but amazing things to say about our houses and our builders? That's what it should be, right? We should be building these very expensive homes to last more than just the first mortgage period of time. So anyways, that's my quick montage on building.
Right. You know what? I love it. I was on the phone with a company from Sweden just the other day that we're looking to have on the show. And they are treating their company, just like you just did, as a super fun place to work. If you're in the office, you can play video games and foosball as if you were working at Google, for instance. Yeah. And it's the same philosophy. Why can't it be fun? Why can't we geek out on the coolness that's happening in our industry with the technology that's coming in? Why not? It is fun if you get other people that are into it and you like that stuff. So I love it. All right, we're going to fly through some questions here real quick, Matt, and then we'll go from there. So Victoria Wilson from YouTube, should I update my beautiful oak interior doors? Probably they are all 8 foot tall with 8 foot ceilings. Is that bad structurally old house?
Ooh, probably not, Victoria. Only if you're seeing a bunch of cracks in the house would I say there are structural issues. If it's an old enough house to be plaster shows its cracks pretty easily. You might even be able to tell where some of those have been fixed, but I wouldn't think that you would need to change that. Most likely, structurally, you're okay. An older house. It is unusual to see 8 foot doors with 8 foot ceilings, though, I must say. Usually it's 6 foot 8 inch tall doors on 8 foot ceilings.
Thank you so much for asking that question. I got some things popping in, so I'm all over the place. Let's see. Hey, so Better Construction with Sean McStay says, great looking background, Matt. Great show, guys. What's happening, Sean? Thanks for joining us. Then we have Building Product Consulting. That looks like Tim Seams there. I can't tell.
Oh, we did the Crane Convention. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And we were trying to get out to the Nishaha factory tour, but we couldn't work it out. Hopefully we will do that again sometime. Seems like a cool product, but I've not used it before.
Perfect.
Although I do nerd out on anything made in Japan.
Yeah. Well, so does Tim.
I bet.
Hang out with Tim. You guys talk all day. Bud Hollowitzer. Hey, Bud. Great. Thank you for joining us from Michigan on Facebook. All right. Let's keep walking through here. Chris Roush. Matt, have you heard of the Austin Materials Marketplace, reused material market in Austin, Texas? And what are your impressions on the circular economy for housing, for house building?
I don't know about the Austin Materials Marketplace. I'm going to have to check that out. Is that I'm not sure if that's a name or that's just a term for that. But unfortunately, Austin, one of the downsides about Austin, Texas, is that we don't have a great housing stock of older buildings that are being restored and are in great shape. We have very few homes that were built pre-World War II. And the majority of Austin's boom has happened in the kind of 1980s and forward, Dell computing being a huge part of that. So we've got a bunch of 70s, 80s, 90s houses that were built kind of not so great, barely to code. And one of the bummers is, my 1970s house that I live in now that I remodeled, the exact same construction style with maybe a slightly bigger amount of insulation. And that's it, is being built 20 miles north of here by production builders. And so it's sad to me that 50 years later, we're still utilizing the same construction techniques. 2x4 walls with thermoply sheathing, bat insulation, no care to air seal or airtightness whatsoever. No requirement for blower door testing in most jurisdictions in Texas, and maybe an R38 blown-in ceiling. But if you don't have much thought to an air barrier, insulation doesn't do you any good if air is blowing through it. It's a furnace filter at that point. So I'm sad that we're still kind of behind the times when it comes to codes. I'm also sad that I'm a member of the Home Builders Association, and we're often known as that organization that's pushing back against new codes and better regulations when it comes to performance of construction. And I get that there's an affordability issue, but I think we should build to a higher standard. We should do that willingly rather than the government forcing us to do it. So instead of enforcing a blower door score, why don't you just shoot for a really low blower door score and have an internal contest like I did at my company for years. And in fact, one of my project managers, Amy, still holds the record for best blower door score. I'm hoping that my house beats it so I can get the title back. But we talk about that regularly on an internal basis. Hey, what was your blower door score? How does that compare to our past houses? What can we do differently in the next house to get a lower blower door score? So
yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good question, and it's so different across the country for sure. Yeah. And I will tell you, Matt, one of the things that's been kind of great, we're fortunate enough that we have the media past chairman of the NAHB on our show once a month talking about offsite construction. He joins our BS Friday show quite often. And we're always talking about better ways of building and what's happening. And codes is a big thing right now. They're starting to really take a strong look at a lot of these things. And when you're playing at the Builders Association level and all that, there's a lot of politics and what have you that come into play and lobbying and all of these things. But it's been a lot of fun because we have the top of the NAHB on this show once a month now. And we also have been having Judy Donnell on. She's the chair for all the associate members at the NAHB now.
Very cool.
And really starting to get the word out. And the fact that, they're joining shows like mine or, a show like yours says a lot. It says a lot when they show up about codes. And
I don't mean to put a blanket statement on the NAHB. Like I said, I'm a member for all 15 years I've been in business. I just know that sometimes that's what we can be known for. And that's not all our members. There's a ton of members like me that are doing custom focusing on high performance. And I'm not a design build firm. I'm not a Benson Wood panelized builder. I do a range of projects, and I'm always most interested in making sure that my houses don't have problems, that my clients are comfortable. But I do a range of blower door scores. Some of my houses are super tight. Some of them meet code but aren't crazy super tight. I do a little bit of everything. But I always try and make sure that I build every house, every design, every client to the best of my abilities. And sometimes I'll tell clients too that I'm going to put your house ahead of your budget sometimes, right? I'm going to make sure you don't do something, whether it's budget related or whether it's design related, that's going to cause you a problem down the road. So we want to try and always build to the best of our abilities, but I have to build within the design that the architect's looking for. And sometimes that's not a high performance design.
Right. But you can still incorporate best practices to what you can do within the budget of the customer or whatever the case is. And I think that's better than what most people are going to be doing. So, all right, we're going to just talk, throw a few comments out here, and then we're going to get into what you guys can look forward to. Matt Rissinger is on the show, and he will be back on the show on Wednesday, which is great. We are here with the Housing Innovation Alliance. And if you haven't figured it out already, this week is all about collaboration and innovation. The whole week, and that's why we're hanging out with people like Matt Rissinger. Hit that like and share button, please, and please subscribe to YouTube and Matt's channel as well. Anthony Goudet, this episode flew by. I need to turn it into a series, the perfect mix of building science and practical applications.
Thanks, Anthony. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's nice. Thank you. Who knows what the future always brings, right? Steve Basic, always a great job, Matt and Dave. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
All right. I don't know. Maybe I missed this question, but George said Mark's question was almost as long as his beard. So if I missed it, Mark, I'll ask it on Wednesday. We're trying to wrap things up as we move through here real quick. I think we got to everybody. We got Mark and Steve. They're all just doing shout outs to Greg and so forth. All right, Matt, I got to take a second here and promote a couple things that we're doing over the next few days. George, I got to take you off the screen. All right, so tomorrow, maybe you've been to some of these places, Matt. We're going to actually be at the Whisper Valley development tomorrow. And it's actually a development that's all about sustainability, affordability, and cutting edge technology with Google Fiber in the house. And I mean, we're going to have two. We're going to have Doug Gillian on and Tom Lynch. Doug is from Taurus Investment Holdings, and Tom Lynch is from Pacesetter Homes, and they are two of the experts on this entire community. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I have not been to a community that's as high tech as this one's supposed to be yet, Whisper Valley. So join us, because we are going to go live from there with two of the people that are the most educated on how this whole community has come together. So that's show number 1 tomorrow. And then again, we are going to be live in the afternoon at 2 p.m. Central Time, 3 p.m. Eastern, with EcoSmart Solutions. So from EcoSmart Solutions, we're going to have Greg Wolfson, the CTO, on, and John Towle, the CEO. These two are the masterminds behind all the technology at Whisper Valley. So they're going to be joining us, talking about all the technology that is part of Whisper Valley, and that is something you don't want to miss, because this is state-of-the-art stuff, and we're really going to have a lot of fun with it. And then Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time, everybody, Central Time, we're at Icon 3D Printing. So we're going to be interviewing some people at Icon 3D Printing. We're going to be showing some really cool stuff. And then we are going to wrap up the week. We're going to wrap it up on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Central Time with this guy, Matt Rissinger. And if you haven't noticed already, he is a brain full of building science and building knowledge. He's really good to have a conversation with. And Matt, I can't thank you enough for jumping on here and saying, let's promote this. Let's get people involved. Let's all be a team. Let's work together.
That's a really nice way of saying I'm a big building nerd. I appreciate that, Dave. It's much kind than saying I'm a nerd.
Well, I can call you, hey, listen.
Although
When
I was a kid growing up in Pittsburgh, nerd was like, oh, you're such a nerd. And now it's like, yeah, oh God, that guy's a nerd. He's really smart. He's probably getting paid really well at Google. He's a nerd.
Yeah, right? You're right. It's not the way it is. I think the fun thing is, and I use this analogy, and since I have you on, I'll use it again. When we were growing up, you were a nerd, or you were a burnout, or a punk, or right. You had all these different genres of groups or what have you. But today it's interesting, because somebody that goes into the trades and somebody that goes to be a doctor at Yale, what do they have in common?
I don't know what.
Technology.
Technology, yeah.
They all have cell phones. They all play video games.
Yeah.
It's different. They intermix differently than we intermix. And I think that's kind of the age we're living with that makes how we're moving forward different, because it's almost like crossbreeding.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, we're at 1 hour and 1 minute, Matt. I love it. Thank you so much to everybody for joining. Matt, thank you for joining. Thank you to the organization.
Thanks for joining, everybody.
Yeah.
See you guys Wednesday afternoon, 3 o'clock Central.
3 o'clock Central. You hang tight right there, Matt. I'm going to do my outro. We'll come back, and then we'll wrap everything up. So that's it, everybody. We will see you tomorrow. Please tune in. We're going to have a lot of fun stuff at Whisper Valley, going over all the high-tech stuff in this high-tech community that's also affordable. So with that said, I'm Dave Cooper, Matt Rissinger from The Build Show. Matt, thank you. Tune in tomorrow, everybody. I appreciate all the support always. We'll see you next time. Bye now.
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.